Hello again and welcome into the VolReport.com podcast on Rivals.com. We are the Tennessee site on Rivals, Tennessee.rivals.com, VolReport.com. I am Tyler Mansfield, site publisher, joined today by Noah Taylor, our football beat writer. We had a bye week. We still did some work, obviously, but we had a little bit of relaxation on Saturday to sit back and watch some games. And, now it's another game week. SEC action rolls on. Tennessee goes on the road to LSU, Death Valley, down in Baton Rouge on Saturday. Not a night game, though. It's not Saturday night in Baton Rouge, but we're still calling Baton Rouge just in the daytime. So it's LSU week, Noah. Bye weeks in the books. Tennessee got a good break after being 4-0. Now speak of that, they're 4-0. They're ranked 8th in the country. They're playing number 25 LSU. Another big SEC game against a team they have not beat in the last 5 meetings. Kind of like the Florida game. This is kind of the same game. Different team, obviously, different matchup. But this is a chance for them to prove themselves again with a big SEC win. Heading into the game, what are your overall thoughts, talking points? Obviously, it's just Tuesday today, but this is another game you feel that this is a team that Tennessee can prove themselves with another big SEC road win?
Yeah, absolutely. I think also it helps the LSU snuck into the top 25 this week after beating Auburn, and that's something I didn't think would happen after their opening loss to Florida State. But it's like we've talked about in the message board. This is a big opportunity for Tennessee. You're on the road in a tough environment that last time we talked before the podcast started, you played there. Very memorable loss for Tennessee in 2010, but it's a tough environment. And it's noon, and I know it's not nighttime, but LSU announced today it's a sold-out game. I think you saw last week in this league with Ole Miss and Kentucky, noon kickoffs can still, as long as there's a big opponent coming to town, there's still going to be a lot of hype surrounding it. And there's not a whole lot of fan bases that do it like LSU. So you can expect a really tough environment, but a really good opportunity. Like you said, there's a lot of parallels here that are similar to that Florida game for Tennessee. Biggest difference, obviously, is Tennessee had the benefit of playing at Neyland Stadium. Now you take that same hype and that same energy and everything, and you put it on the road. A huge opportunity for them to prove themselves again and possibly pick up a third ranked win this year.
That'd be the biggest thing. I think, they beat that Pitt team on the road. They were ranked. You beat Florida, ranked at home. Now it could be a third ranked win. It could be a second SEC win. This could be a 5-0 team going into Bama week, which would be huge. Will they beat Bama? It's hard to say. No one can beat Bama, really. So that's a different week. That's next week. But for LSU, you talk about 2010, the last time Tennessee played in Death Valley, 16-14 LSU win. LSU was ranked 12th during that game. They were 4-0. Tennessee was 2-3, obviously the underdog. But it was a low-scoring game, defensive battle. Tennessee actually led 14-10 early fourth quarter. And they led that entire fourth quarter until almost the very end, literally the very end of the game. And we know a lot of Vols fans have been around for a while, remember that game, very well. I knew some history about it, and I've now studied again on it. Too many men on the field. I think there's 13 defenders. You can't have 13. Everyone knows that. And the LSU thought the game was over. Les Miles' headset was off. They were mad leaving the field, and they won. There was a untimed down because of that penalty. So no time left. There's a 1-yard touchdown run just like that. Boom, you lose the game 16-14. That is one of those games where you're like, dang, it's crazy. I can't believe that happened. But that's what it was. So that's the last time Tennessee traveled to Baton Rouge. Back this weekend, like Noah said, it's noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. LSU fans are still asleep that time usually because they party hard on Friday night and during the game day on Saturday. So we'll see. And Tennessee fans like that. It's to their advantage. Josh Heupel says start early every single week. We can do it. So that game, 2010, last time in Death Valley, they've not played since 2017. That was a blowout win for LSU. Tennessee has lost 5 straight to the Tigers. Will it change this week? Tennessee's a favorite. It's a slight favorite. I think this is a good matchup on paper. Looking at LSU, you beat Auburn last week, or 21-17. And LSU, minus that tight loss early in the season, I think Florida State, they have fought back. They're 4-1. Could be 5-0 easy. Now they're ranked for a reason. I don't think they are as good as Tennessee by any means. That's why one's 8 and one's 25. But they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. Quarterback Jaden Daniels, we'll talk about him here in a bit. Noah, your overall thoughts on LSU? You look at some film and stuff. What do you think about them? Is this a legit top 25 team? Will Tennessee have trouble with it? What do you think will happen? What do you think this LSU team can do against Tennessee?
It's kind of hard to tell. I kind of thought after the way they played against Florida State that it was going to be a tough year for them. But like you said, they're sitting here at 4-1 now. They went out and they beat Mississippi State in their SEC opener. Got down early in that game, came back and won. Did it against Auburn. Now, I think out of those 2 wins for them, Mississippi State's pretty impressive. I think they're a pretty good football team. Auburn's not very good. It was, that game kind of looked like it was not going to go their way at all for a while, kind of like the Florida State game and the I mean, it's pretty impressive for as bad as they've played in those 3 games. And I'm only talking those 3 because I think they've played Southern and New Mexico State.
Right.
And those 3 games, as bad as they played, they pulled out. That's pretty impressive. And it's a first year coach, Brian Kelly, for all what people think of him. He's been a winner where he's been at, and he's winning right now. It's ugly, but they're doing it. I think right now, especially, and this was a big talk today in the press conference with the assistant coaches and the players. Tennessee's coming off a game against Florida where they dealt with a mobile quarterback, a guy who can run the ball really well, in Anthony Richardson, and obviously struggled against him. So another test with a guy like Jaden Daniels who can do that as well. I think the biggest key today is, when I put out my prediction the other day of how I thought Tennessee would finish. I know there's been some kind of injury news since then that might change things up a little bit. One thing I like about Tennessee in every game that they're going to play from here on out, outside of Alabama and Georgia, is I think their offense is so good that they're going to be able to overcome, bad defense. And I think that this week will kind of be similar to that. I think LSU will be a little bit like Florida in the sense that they'll be able to move the ball, they'll be able to put up some points. Jaden Daniels is going to be able to make some plays. So I think obviously it'll be a close game for that reason. But I think I like Tennessee's offense against everybody except Alabama and Georgia. I think that Tennessee's offense is good enough to kind of mask those problems, because I think LSU is definitely going to be able to score and move the ball this week.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of Jaden Daniels, this is a guy who played at Arizona State. Kelly got from the portal. He came to LSU. He won the job over Garrett Nussmeier. He's been pretty impressive. I mean, look at his numbers: 915 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's rushed for 321 and 3 more scores. But last week, he was not good at all. Literally not good. Okay? 8 for 20. 8 for 20 passing, 80 yards, and only 59 yards rushing and a touchdown on 16 carries. Now, Auburn is not a good football team, and everyone knows that. If their defense can do that to Jaden Daniels, Tennessee should have no problem getting to him. But also, look at Anthony Richardson last week. Well, I guess in the Florida game, 2 weeks ago, excuse me. He came in with terrible stats, and he threw for 300-something yards. Now, granted, Tennessee won that game, but they didn't get to him like they should have. Can they do that differently this time around with Jaden Daniels? He's mobile, just like Richardson is. I don't know. The secondary, Tennessee has not been good. We know that. The line's been solid, but they're playing quarterbacks that have not been good. Don't make them better when you play them. I think that's a big thing for them to focus on too. And Daniels is solid and he's mobile, but Tennessee should have no problem getting to him. And they can do that. It helps them with chances big time. It might help them get a win. That's just the thing about it. Jay Daniels is good, yes. He's an SEC quarterback for a reason, but Tennessee defense should have no problem getting to him. If they do that, they win the football game. But I mean, on top of that too, this is an LSU team like you mentioned. Their comeback wins. It's weird. So they're not a good first half team at all, and everyone knows that. Okay, look back at Mississippi State in that one game. I watched it on TV that night, September 17th. They were down 6-0 for the first quarter, 13-7 at halftime, but then outscored the Bulldogs 24-3 the second half to win. It was 31-16 final. I thought they were done from the start, but they found some life. And then against Auburn, it's 7-0 after the opening frame, 17-14 at the break, and 21-17 a win. So I don't know how they're doing it, but I mean, if Tennessee can get out to a big lead, I don't think they're the kind of team to let them come back. If you can get 2 hooker touchdowns or a small run and get a 14-point lead, they shouldn't lose the game. It just depends on if they can start fast and start hot. So with LSU, the way you talked about it, you mentioned those 2 key things. Do you think this is a game where Tennessee can start fast and shouldn't have a problem? I mean, do you think LSU has the ability to come back? I mean, Tennessee's different than obviously Mississippi State and Auburn, but it's just hard to predict how the game could start and how it could finish.
Yeah, I think that'll be the biggest key because I mean, I don't see, um, I think LSU obviously has a talented defensive line, and we've seen, Tennessee. That's kind of been their problem this season. If there is any kind of um, criticism of the offense, has suffered for some slow starts. They did against Pitt, fell behind, did against Florida. I know they scored first in that one, but trailed in the first half in that game. Um, so that'll be key. Go on the road, and if you're able to start fast and put up a couple scores early, I think that would be huge. By that point, you're helping get the crowd out of it a little bit, which would definitely help Tennessee. Because I think even like I said earlier, even at noon, that's going to be a crazy atmosphere. I feel like take them out of that, disrupt Daniels a little bit. Just don't let him sit back there and or trying to make throws on the run or get out of the pocket like Richardson was able to do sometimes and rattle off some big runs. Can contain him a little bit. They've also got some really good running backs as well that Tennessee will have to slow down, and that's good news on Tennessee's part. Florida had some good running backs as well coming into that Florida game.
Yeah.
Did a good job of kind of limiting Florida's run game. So I think you take away Daniel's ability to run, you take away the running backs, like they did against Florida, and you score some early and not go through one of those slow starts. Tennessee's got a chance to really kind of pull away in that. I agree. I think starting fast will be huge for them. I think they can do it, but a lot of it will depend on their defense making some stops and allowing the offense to kind of pull ahead there.
I agree 100%. And the defense has to be better this week. The Florida game, they about blew it at the end,
Yeah.
and we all know that. We saw it. It was crazy the way it finished. But they held on and got the win. Late pick there helped out a lot. But the offense has been clicking every week. The defense just has to do things differently. And do those things differently, at least the more results for Tennessee. Florida game, like I said, we know how that went. The Pitt game was closer than what it should have been. I want to see Tennessee come out and just play great, both sides of the ball, start to finish, and see how it goes. That way, we can see a full adjustment and see what they do greatly, from start to finish in the game. LSU, it's a road game. It's always going to be tough. If they can win this game, you're 5-0. You might maybe jump a spot or two in the poll. You might get 6, seven definitely, and 8. You're not going to pass 8 now. And then Bama, compete with Bama. Not saying you can beat them. Keep it reasonably close. I mean, you're not going to fall very far. And then Kentucky, after UT Martin, obviously UT Martin comes in first. But then end of the month, Kentucky. It's a team that just lost. Obviously, they got beat. Ole Miss got them. Will Levis strip sack to end the game. We're looking ahead a little bit. This is the outlook of a team. I said 8 wins coming in. I said 9 wins. They can get 10. I think your story, you predicted 10 wins. I mean, just take care of business at LSU. Beat Kentucky, finish the season strong down the road. LSU, they've not beat them since 2005. It was Baton Rouge, 30-27 overtime win. They lost in Atlanta, lost in Knoxville, lost in Baton Rouge, lost in Knoxville, lost in Knoxville. It was 30-10 in 2017, 38-7-11. So they have not been competitive in this series in a while. Minus the 16-14 loss in 10. They were right there in the game and won it and got beat there at the end. This is Tennessee's chance. Once again, the Florida game, everybody's like, oh, if they beat Florida, they're back. And I think if it's LSU, they beat LSU, it has that more stopping point where you can say, all right, I think Tennessee might be back. Is Tennessee back? Everybody says that. What do you think about that? Do you feel that this is another one of those big matchups where it's a prove me, show me type game coming into it?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think part of that part of the reason is Tennessee's better than LSU. I think that obviously the ranking shows that, but I think also offensively Tennessee is just on a completely different level than most teams in the SEC right now. I think offensively. So it is a game. In years past, it'd be a little bit different. Especially if this was last season. You got a first year head coach and Josh Heupel. You're on the road. You're on the road anywhere in the SEC is tough, but you go to LSU, and everything that environment comes with. It's a little bit of a different story then. But now, Tennessee is, they're the favorite, albeit it's the gap is closing closer to kickoff here. But, I think you have to go on the road and really win these type of games if you're Tennessee. Teams that you are better than, teams that you're ranked higher than. This is a really, in some ways, it's kind of weird to say this because last week that Florida game was such a measuring stick. Now Tennessee's better than Florida, so they were expected to win that game and they did. But again, how can you carry that momentum? You've had a bye week. You've had a chance to get some guys healed up. Can you carry that momentum into another game? 2016 is a little bit different. Tennessee came to that season with a ton of hype, and they got into the top 10. They played Florida, beat them for the first time in 15 years or whatever, 16 years, whatever that streak was. But then you come out, you beat Georgia the next week, but then you lose to Texas A&M on the road. Beat Georgia the Hail Mary, lost Texas A&M on the road, and then that season just kind of fell off, and you end up going I think 9-4. So this would be huge for Tennessee to kind of see where they're at, see if they're really, if you can go on the road and beat an SEC West team after coming off an emotional win like Florida. I totally agree. I think this is a big game for them to kind of prove themselves again. And every game the rest of the way will kind of be that way, but this one for sure.
Absolutely. And if they keep winning, it's more recognition. Hooker's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in college football right now. There's talented people on both sides of the ball. Yeah, things to work on, but they're winning. It's Heupel is his second year. Look how much they've changed since last year and 2 years ago. Well, Pruitt's last year. They're trending in the right direction. To just keep climbing. So we'll see what happens. We'll be in Baton Rouge for the game. We still have not finalized our travel plans, which is kind of worrisome. But we will today, and we'll be there for you guys. BarReport.com. We will have content all week long, the rest of the week. We'll be there in Baton Rouge. Get there sometime Friday. Find some good food. Any food recommendations, send our way. DM on Twitter or an email or the message board. Just hop on, tell us where to go. I've heard some good recommendations already, but I've heard it's my second time in the New Orleans area, but first time going to Baton Rouge. So I'm very excited about it. Love road games. So me and Noah will be there for double coverage there. One more thing. Brian Kelly said today, it's like a cool note. Really, really, Heupel gets a lot of praise, but not like what Kelly did. So we asked Heupel this week, what's your thoughts on Brian Kelly? He said, well, I don't know him very well, but does a good job everywhere he's been. That's nice to say. Brian Kelly went as far as to say they call Tennessee an outstanding football team. He said Heupel has done a great job in a very short period of time. He said Heupel has put his stamp on the team and said they're fast-paced, which they are. They even call them the fastest team in college football. This is a guy who's coached for a long time and has almost 300 wins. That's pretty high praise, coming from a guy that was awesome at Notre Dame and now doing good jobs at LSU, I think.
Yeah, I think it just shows too the kind for two guys who've never coached against each other either. It just shows what Tennessee has done in 2 years under Josh Heupel. It's you put them on notice a little bit last year, but how many times have we seen promising starts from coaches in Knoxville that just kind of taper off? This hadn't been the case. Tennessee's as strong as ever, at least seemingly right now. They don't seem like they're going to slow down, and for coaches now to say things like that, that's got to be fun for Vols fans to hear. And there's obviously an element of coach speak. No coach is ever going to downplay the opponent they're playing, at least publicly. But for a coach like that to say have high praise for Heupel, that's a good sign for I think Tennessee fans and just the trajectory of this program since last year.
I 100% agree. It's a big game. We'll see what they do. We'll be there for it. Follow us throughout the rest of the week for all your pregame content. Follow us on game day for game day content, and then even after. We keep rolling. Bye week was nice, but now we got LSU, and we got Bama, and UT Martin. It's still a game week, and then you got Kentucky, and then just keeps rolling from there. I can't believe it's week 6 of the season, but really it's game 5 for Tennessee. I think that's right. Because that week 0 stuff throws me off. I hate week 0. Why do you call it week 0?
Right,
Call it week 1. I know they're bad games, but that's besides the point.
I will say this. I will say my bold take for Tennessee fans. I think this will be your first of 2 trips to Louisiana this year. I will say that. I think Tennessee will obviously go to LSU this weekend, but I think they will be in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl in January. So that's where I have them at. So get ready. Go ahead and when you're there, get a feel for New Orleans a little bit if you have the time to go down there and see. Get ready for January. I think Tennessee will make it to the Sugar Bowl. That's my bold take right now.
Love it. Great stuff as usual from Noah Taylor. Make sure you're following him for all his content throughout the week. My content, Tyler Wumble's doing a little bit of everything right now. He's got baseball stuff, basketball stuff, a little bit of football as well. So, yeah, we're rolling. We're very busy. Luke Winslow doing recruiting for us, doing a great job holding down the fort there. Jake Nichols he's been hidden, but he's still there somewhere. He's been very busy with doing high school stuff. Davis Mosley doing recruiting basketball side of things for us. A little dead period of time right now, but we'll get back on that as soon as there's stuff going on. But yeah, very busy. Keep checking us out, VolReport.com, Tennessee.rivals.com. This has been the Vol Report Podcast, and we will see you very soon.